Hey everyone, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, and here is your Infringement Friday. This week I am talking all about a weird clip that I found on Instagram and I was able to download and kind of crop so it made more sense. I found a goalkeeper double touch or a controlling twice without it touching an opponent. And it seems odd to me, and I want to have a discussion around it because this one is so odd because most of the time we try not to look for these. We try to manage situations and we don't necessarily go looking for the trouble here. Um, Now I did a previous double touch video and I think it was back when I first started doing this stuff, and I think it was more the intention of the video was more to point out that an offense was actually happening here, where most people aren't aware of it, and but they're distinctly different. The two clips are going to be different in a way. So first, I want to go ahead and just look at what does the law actually say. Okay. So in 12.2, where indirect free kick is listed here, we have what is considered control in the laws of the game. Now, granted, we're not to the practical application just yet, so let's just start here and we'll go to that next part. An indirect free kick is awarded if a goalkeeper inside their own penalty area commits any of the following offenses: controls the ball with the hand or arm for longer than 6 seconds. Got it. Touches the ball with the hand and arm after releasing it, but before it is touched another player. So they go to roll it and it gets stuck on something and then they run over and pick it up. That would be an offense. Touches the ball with the hand or arm unless the goalkeeper has clearly kicked or attempted to kick the ball to release it after it has been deliberately kicked to the goalkeeper by a teammate. So that's the back pass rule. And receiving it directly from a throw-in taken by a teammate. Again, just another specification of that back pass rule as well. So unless it has happened, unless the goalkeeper has tried to kick the ball clear, right, and they scuff it or something like that, they are then allowed to go ahead and get that ball especially if it's in one of these two scenarios, right? A goalkeeper is considered to be in control of the ball with the hand when it's between their hands and between any other surface, the ground, their body, the post, whatever. I've seen kind of crazier things. Or by touching it with any part of the hands or arms except if the ball rebounds from the goalkeeper or the goalkeeper has made a save. Now, obviously, the rebound from the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper making a save is going to be a lot of subjective kind of analysis there, but that is the initial touch is considered control. Holding the ball in an outstretched open hand, holding the ball out like this, they've got it. Bouncing it on the ground or throwing it in the air. And again, that is considered goalkeeper control. Now, a goalkeeper cannot be challenged by any opponent when in control of the ball with the hands. I think we all know that one. Okay, so now let's go back and let's look at my original clip, right? And I want to look at this in a sort of a different way, right? Because the practical applications are that this is all very subjective, it's all very nuanced, and we kind of have this: what does football expect, or what does the game expect from us when we're talking about these, right? Are we being a little too nitpicky when it comes to shot, rebound, parry, etc., right? These are where it comes. So let's have a look at the first clip real quick. And some of you might remember this, some of you might not. That's perfectly fine. So let's have a look at it real quick, and you'll see this one here. Watch through it one more time. So he bends down, touches the ball with his hand, doesn't pick it up. Dribbles it forward a little bit, picks it up. Now, as he's going through, you hear the referee telling him, hey, you've controlled the ball, you can't pick it up. So the referee's trying to manage the situation, which is what I would go for 100% of the time, right? The text on the screen is more law, like letter of the law, laws of the game, right? Now, is that a shot coming in? Some of us might reason it to be a shot. That's fine. Is it a parry? Is he kind of saving that shot in a parry-like fashion? Maybe you can go with that. I think in a lot of cases that unless this is a kind of repetitive kind of thing, like the 6-second rule, we start to have more flexibility or less flexibility depending on what's happening. So when we have a situation like this, right, it's clear what he's doing. He's stopping the ball with his hands. That shot was coming in at low speed, in my opinion. Does he need it? No. Does he need to use his hands there? No. He could easily just tap it with his foot and then dribble out a little bit and then pick it up, and we're fine. He does something different here, which I think a lot of people don't realize is technically an offense, right? So I don't want to necessarily harp on this one, because this one I think is a little bit more blatant, a little bit more obvious in terms of why it got called. The next one, though, has me kind of 6s and 7s all over the place. And let's have a look at it here. And before we move on to it, what does the game expect here? What does the game expect from this play? I think the game expects that we manage the situation and that we not try to look for the potential offense at the first time of asking, right? We have to kind of manage that player, manage the situation, and say, hey, let's move forward. Hey, you can't control the ball twice with your hands, and that's what you're doing there. If you do it again, we're gonna have to have a restart for that. We're gonna have to handle it, right? Don't make me do that. Let's just play the game and keep the game moving, right? Because the idea is the 6-second rule is to basically prevent the goalkeeper from holding onto the ball indefinitely, right? So the law change that's being proposed or being trialed in some areas is if they hold the ball longer than 8 seconds, that then instead of an indirect free kick from the spot of where the goalkeeper is standing when we stop play, instead it goes right to a corner kick. I think that we'll see this maybe enforced a lot more stringently, because the actual outcome, the restart is not necessarily as the punishment will fit the crime. I'll just put it that way, because the expectation of the indirect free kick creates an instantaneously advantageous position for the non-offending team, and it's like getting a $20,000 speeding ticket when you go 5 over. Like they don't fit, right? So that's what this one is. I want to go through, though, and I want to share a different one, because the different one is going to be a lot more subjective, in my opinion, or a little bit more weird. Let's just go with that. Okay, so here we go.
Und es kamen Kuriositäten dazu. Zweite Hälfte. Yannick Stein, Keeper von Babelsberg, ausgeliehen von Union Berlin, die Nummer 1 seit der Winterpause, will hier den Ball abschlagen und fängt ihn, und dann kommt der Pfiff von Schiedsrichter Rasmus Jessen und Fragezeichen auf dem Platz. Gianluca Schulz behindert seinen eigenen Keeper, und Jessen sieht durch den Kontakt von Schulz hier mit dem Ball ein Rückspiel zu Stein, der den Ball wieder aufnimmt, laut Regel. Also indirekter Freistoß für Babelsberg. Aber die Unparteiischen müssen über Funk beraten. Jessen will die Meinung seiner Assistenten, denn ein klares Rückspiel sieht ja anders aus.
So again, this one is going to be a lot less obvious, in my opinion, and I don't agree with it 100%. I don't think the game is expecting it. I don't think it really is the spirit of the game here. because you'll see he's coming through, keeper has it in his hands. He realizes that his teammate is right next to him, and his teammate's trying to get out of the way, right? So what happens is that he throws it up, he tosses it up, it doesn't come to the ground, it doesn't go through here, and as we saw in the law, like, tossing it up in the air is still control of the goalkeeper. Like, it hasn't been released into play. So I don't quite know how this one is being
Ball abschlagen und fängt ihn und dann kommt der Pfiff von Schiedsrichter
reasoned into.
Rasmus Jessen und Fragezeichen.
I don't understand how this one is going to fit with the law here when there's very little that's going on, right? In terms of deliberate play of, kind of, hey, because he's only had the ball here in his hands for, let's do a quick count here. All right, so he's up 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we're 4, maybe 5 seconds if you really want to consider when he's down on the ground, right? I usually start my count when he's up on his feet and he's able to start releasing the ball back into play. There's no, he's not just laying down on the ground and going. He pops right back up and he's trying to get that ball back into play quickly. So I don't see how this one is an infringement. I don't see it as an offense in comparison to the first video that we saw here. When we have these things happen, right? Does the game expect either of these to be called? I don't think so. But I think the first one that I shared with you is a lot more deliberate. There's a lot more of that gamesmanship that I think the law is trying to address. Whereas this one, it doesn't strike me that way. He's trying to distribute the ball. He never loses control of the ball, right? It does touch the back of the defender a little bit, but that's after he's kind of shielded it against his other hand, right? He tosses it up and then realizes, oops, I'm too close to my teammate here. So for me, the infringement doesn't work in the second clip, and it's not really an infringement, and it's not one that we would expect to see or have called. But again, this is where it's just these weird, odd scenarios that, how do they fit with the laws, right? Even the laws don't really fully support this one, because like we said in the first one here, in the first law here, right? What is goalkeeper control? Holding it in the outstretched hand, bouncing it on the ground, or throwing it in the air. Does he throw it in the air? Has it been released into play? If we're gonna get that nitpicky about it, right? It doesn't seem. And secondly, okay, it touches his teammate. 1, I don't think he's fully released it into play. 2, I don't believe he's fully. And I don't think that would be something where it would constitute a pass back, right? There's nothing. I'm struggling to read the situation in such a way where the goalkeeper has put that ball back into play, and that this is somehow a pass back, and it is not even close, right? And this is one of those moments where I would read this in a completely different fashion than this referee, because he's thrown the ball up in the air with the intention to release it, realize that his teammate is too close. The ball never hits the ground. It does touch the other player, but I think we have to have, that little bit of common sense here where we don't necessarily have an offense. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, because it's odd, right? And this is the kind of odd play that happens all the time in the grassroots game, right? Because at the pro level, you'll hardly see this, because the defenders know to clear out. They're gonna get away. The keeper's got a little bit more awareness to be able to space himself out, to be able to move. You don't see that at the lower levels all that often, because things are a little bit just, they're just not as polished, right? So for me, this call seems to be, it seems like the referee's looking for the offense here and not necessarily truly thinking about the whole scenario and seeing if it really is an infringement or not. But I want to know your take on this, because how do you manage these sort of double touch situations, right? You can go back to the first video, that's fine, and give me some thoughts on that, because I've had a lot of feedback on it, and it was more or less, it wasn't necessarily say, hey, you see this, you call it every time. And that's kind of how the video came off, and I've explained it in comments and so forth, that that's not really what I meant. But we have to at least acknowledge that technically there's an offense there, and we have to do our job in terms of managing it. Whereas the second video that we have is much more benign, in my opinion. It is nowhere near deliberate release. It is nowhere near deliberate pass back. And yet we still have the referee blowing the whistle, and he's got comms on. He's holding. He's waiting for something before he raises his arm for the indirect free kick signal. And that's where, for me, you have just two very, you're getting the same call, but you're not getting it in anywhere near the same circumstance or scenario, right? So I want to know, how do you guys handle this? How do you manage these situations? Because again, at the grassroots level, you're looking at less polish. You're looking at maybe players don't know the laws nearly as well as they should, or something of that nature. So I want to know this double control indirect free kick inside the penalty area that we try to avoid at all costs, right? How do we look at that? How do we handle it? How do you manage situations in this moment? I think one of these situations, the first one, is much easier to manage because you have the time, you have your voice, you have your presence to be able to do it. The second one, you don't manage that. There's no way you manage that. It's just two players coming together, and then the whistle goes. There's really nothing there, in my opinion. I don't see an offense, and I don't think the game expects one. But again, share your thoughts. I'd love to know your comments. Have a fantastic weekend. If you are out on the pitch, I envy you. I am still recovering from my ankle surgery, so I have a long way to go with that. But if you're out on the pitch, good luck, do well, all the best. If you are laying low and doing anything like that, feel free to plug in. Get more interactive and enjoy the content that's here in the community, because it is truly going to be one of those things that I think just benefits you guys across the board. Even if it's just to disagree with me, or to start a conversation, or to, hey, what's this weird thing that I saw online, wherever you have it, right? Those are the conversations that's where we spark learning, that's where we spark growth. Okay? So until then, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys for your Motivation Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye, guys.